Nobody's waiting anymore, Joseph. Because I'm here now. Hello. I'll wait for some people to get in here. Daphne's here. As always, KJ's back. Peaches. Peaches in chat, guys. Peaches in chat. KJ, there's no section to add tags when you go live from your phone. There's none. I looked through all the settings. In the description, you can probably... I wrote a bunch of shit in the description. But there's no section for tags. Yes, I washed my hands. Thanks for asking your mom. Millions of peaches. Peaches for free. Millions of peaches. Peaches for me. Oh, you gotta do it in the studio. Oh, is that how that works? Oh well. This is fine for now. Perhaps the title and description will do a good enough job for now. Elbow cough. Dab on your haters. Okay. I think everybody's here from the... Also for tags, next time when you do them, you gotta put a hashtag. What do you mean? Because like before on the PlayStation, when I was doing the tags, it says just write the tag and separate them by a comma. So that's what I followed that format. I don't know. Why? Your mom, it's better than being an alcoholic, okay? I quit drinking and smoking pot, so I'm like, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. I'm gonna quit vaping at some point too, so don't worry about it. It's all good. I've only vaped for less than a year, so... Because they want to stand out, haha. So they have a code that auto does it when it's separated. Oh. Isn't smoking weed better? No, there is actually no evidence that supports that vaping damages your lungs. Popcorn lung is a myth. And you can look it up for yourself. There is no popcorn lung from vaping. Do your research. Google it. Weed deposits tar at about 5 times the rate of cigarettes. And this has no tar in it. So, anyway. But I didn't quit weed because it was bad for me. I quit it because it was starting to give me panic attacks anyway. So, it is what it is, cuz. But if we're all ready, the 6 of us are here. It's time to get down to business. Yes, tar and weed. Right, when you smoke it past its fill. Right, which I have done before, and it tastes terrible, but you don't want to do that. I didn't think about it at the time until I stopped. It doesn't matter what form of weed your mom, it's just the getting high gives me panic attacks now. I smoked weed for 8 years, and then for literally 8 years, almost every single day. And then one day, boom, panic attacks. Joseph. 2 of you didn't hit like on the stream. Hit like on the stream. Big Lung invented popcorn so the insurance companies could profit off our freedom. Facts. This is what Big Lung doesn't want you to know. Joseph. He will never stop the rizz. You can't stop the rizzler. He's a rizzler like a Twizzler. But 2 of you didn't hit like on the stream. Hit like on the stream. Come on. Hit me with that like button. Okay. Are you ready to hear fairy tale? Where's Bug? Is Bug in here? Bug is here. The great thing about Stephen King is he writes in really short chapters. So like you can see chapter 1, except they're not really chapters, they're sections of a chapter. But then on the very next page, chapter 2, and then on the next page, chapter 3. They're very short. But like I said, they're not really chapter. There is pictures in this book at the beginning of each actual chapter. Like it says chapter 1 at the top, and there's a picture, and I can show you the picture. Okay? This chapter is called The Goddamn Bridge, The Miracle, and The Howling. All right. That depends, your mom. Do you guys want voices for each character, or do you want me to just read it in an animated voice? I can read it with excitement and enthusiasm, or I can just read it in voices. That's up to you guys. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. How do we get to 8 likes? Where are these likes coming from? Daphne, which one? Voices or just reading it with excitement? Exciting. That's what I thought. Do a Northern Swahili accent? How about no? How about no? Great suggestion, but no. All right, here we go. Chapter 1, The Goddamn Bridge, The Miracle, The Howling. I'm sure I can tell this story. I'm also sure no one will believe it. That's fine with me. Telling it will be enough. My problem, and I'm sure many writers have it, not just newbies like me, is deciding where to start. My first thought was with the shed, but that's where my adventures really began. But then I realized I would have to tell about Mr. Bowdwitch first. and how we came close. Only that would never have happened except for the miracle that happened to my father. A very ordinary miracle, you could say, one that's happened to many thousands of men and women since 1935, but it seemed like a miracle to a kid. Only that isn't the right place either, because I don't think my father would have needed a miracle if it hadn't been for that goddamn bridge. So that's where I need to start, with the goddamn Sycamore Street Bridge. And now, thinking of those things, I see a clear thread leading up through the years to Mr. Bowditch in the padlocked shed behind his ramshackle old Victorian. But a thread is easy to break. So not a thread, but a chain, a strong one. And I was the kid with the shackle clamped around his wrist. The Little Rumple River runs through the north end of Century's Rest, known to the locals as Century. And until the year 1996, the year I was born, it was spanned by a wooden bridge. That was the year the state inspectors from the Department of Highway Transportation looked it over and deemed it unsafe. People in our part of Century had known that since '82, my father said. The bridge was posted for 10,000 pounds, but townies with a fully loaded pickup truck mostly steered clear of it, opting for the turnpike extension, which was an annoying and time-consuming detour. My dad said you could feel the planks shiver and shake and rumble under you, even in a car. It was dangerous. The state inspectors were right about that. But here's the irony. If that old wooden bridge had never been replaced by one made of steel, my mother might still be alive. Ooh, his mother. The Little Rumple really is little, and putting up the new bridge didn't take long. The wooden span was demolished, and the new one was open to traffic in April of '97. Daphne, you're hilarious. She's just commentating. She's just repeating the plot. The mayor cut a ribbon, Father Cowlin, I'm gonna say. The mayor cut a ribbon, Father Cowlin blessed the goddamn thing, and that was that, my father said one night. He was pretty drunk at the time. Wasn't much of a blessing for us, Charlie, was it, he said. It was named the Frank Ellsworth Bridge, after a hometown hero who died in Vietnam, but the locals just called it the Sycamore Street Bridge. Who the fuck is Frank Ellsworth? Sycamore Street was paved nice and smooth on both sides, but the bridge deck, 142 feet long, was steel grating that made a humming sound when cars went over it, and a rumble when trucks used it, which they could do because the bridge was now rated at 60,000 pounds. Not big enough for a loaded semi, but long haulers never used Sycamore Street anyway. There was a talk every year in the town council about paving the deck and adding at least one sidewalk, but every year it seemed like there were other places where the money was needed more urgently. I don't think a sidewalk would have saved my mother, but paving might have. There's no way to know, is there? That goddamn bridge. We're already on section 3. We lived halfway up the long length of Sycamore Street Hill, about a quarter mile from the bridge. There was a little gas and convenience store on the other side called Zip Mart. It sold all the usual stuff, from motor oil to Wonder Bread to Little Debbie cakes. But it also sold fried chicken made by the proprietor, Mr. Eliades, known to the neighborhood as Mr. Zippy. That chicken was exactly what the sign in the window said, the best in the land. I can still remember how tasty it was, but I never ate a single piece after my mom died. I would have gagged it up if I tried. One Saturday in November of 2003, the town council still discussing paving the bridge and still deciding it could wait another year. My mother told us she was going to walk down to the Zippy and get us fried chicken for dinner. My father and I were watching a college football game. You should take the car, Dad said. It's gonna rain. I need the exercise, Mom said, but I'll wear my Little Red Riding Hood raincoat. And that's what she was wearing the last time I saw her. The hood wasn't up because it wasn't raining yet, so her hair was spilling over her shoulders. I was 7 years old and thought my mother had the world's most beautiful red hair. She saw me looking at her through the window and waved. I waved back, then turned my attention to the TV where LSU was driving. Who's LSU? I'm not sure, but that's a football team. I wish I had looked longer, but I don't blame myself. You never know where the trap doors are in your life, do you? It wasn't my fault, and it wasn't Dad's fault, although I know he blamed himself. Though if only I'd gotten up off my dead ass and given her a ride to the damn store, he thought to himself. It probably wasn't the fault of the man in the plumbing truck, either. The cop said he was sober, and he swore he was keeping to the speed limit, which was 25 in our residential zone. Dad said that even if that were true, the man must have taken his eyes off the road, maybe only for a few seconds. Dad was probably right about that. He was an insurance claims adjuster, and he told me he told me once that the only pure accident he ever heard of was a man in Arizona who was killed when a meteor hit him in the head. There's always someone at fault, Dad said, which is not the same as blame. Do you blame the man who hit Mom? I asked. He thought about it, raised his glass to his lips, and drank. This was 6 or 8 months after Mom died, and he'd pretty much given up on beer. By then, he was strictly a Gilbey's man. Can anyone tell me what Gilbey's is? Is that liquor? I try not to, and mostly I can do that unless I wake up at 2 in the morning with nobody in the bed but me. Then I blame him. I call cap. Meteors don't kill people. Meteors don't kill people. People kill people. Google says vodka. Okay, his dad drinks vodka, no longer beer. Mom walked down the hill. There was a sign where the sidewalk ended. By the way, section 4. You said JK? Don't lie to me, Bug. We need to keep the story straight, okay? It's gin, and thank you, KJ. I learned to read pretty good in front of people when I was in high school because we did a lot of reading out loud, and the teacher took volunteers, and nobody wanted to volunteer, and the people that did end up volunteer read terribly, and I got annoyed with it, so I just started volunteering almost every time, and that's how I got pretty good at reading out loud. And I've never read this book before, so vodka ruined the whole story. You're right. Mom walked down the hill. There was a sign where the bridge ended. She walked past the sign and crossed the bridge. By then it was getting dark and starting to drizzle. She went into the store, and Irina Eliades, of course known as Mrs. Zippy, told her more chicken was coming out in 3 minutes, 5 at the most. Somewhere on Pine Street, not far from our house, the plumber had just finished his last job of that Saturday and was putting his toolbox in the back of his panel van. The chicken came out, hot and crispy and golden. Mrs. Zippy boxed up an 8-piece and gave Mom an extra wing to eat on her walk home. Mom thanked her, paid, and stopped to look at the magazine rack. If she hadn't done that, she might have made it all the way across the bridge. Who knows? The plumber's van might have been turning onto Sycamore Street and starting down the mile-long hill while Mom was checking out the latest issue of People. She put it back, opened the door, and spoke to Mrs. Zippy over her shoulder. Have a nice night, she might have cried out when she saw the van was... Oh, I thought that was continuing. Have a nice night, she said. She might have cried out when she saw the van was going to hit her, and God knows what she might have been thinking. But those were the last words she ever spoke. She went out. The rain was coming down cold and steady by then, silvery lines in the glow of the one streetlight on the Zip Mart side of the bridge. Munching on her chicken wing, my mother walked onto the steel deck. Headlights picked her out and threw her shadow long behind her. The plumber passed on the other side. The one on the other side with the sign. The one that reads, "Bridge surface freezes before road. Please use caution." Was he looking in his rearview mirror? Maybe checking for messages on his phone? He said no to both. But when I think of what happened to her that night, I always think of my dad saying the only pure accident he ever heard of was the man who took a meteor to the head. There was plenty of room. The steel bridge was quite a bit wider than the wooden version had been. The problem with that steel grating or was that steel grating. He saw my mother halfway across the bridge and hit the brake, not because he was speeding, or so he said, but out of pure instinct. The steel surface had started to freeze. The panel truck skidded and slewed, starting to come sideways. My mother shrank against the bridge rail, dropping her little piece of chicken. The panel truck slewed further, struck her, and sent her spinning along the rail like a top. I don't want to think about the parts of her that were torn off in that death spin, but I'm helpless not to sometimes. All I know is that the nose of the panel truck finally drove her into a bridge stanchion near the Zip Mart side of the bridge. Part of her went into the Little Rumble River. Part of her stayed on the bridge. I carry a picture of us in my wallet. I was maybe 3 when it was taken. She's got me on her hip. One of my hands is in the air. She had beautiful hair. That's sad. His mom got hit by the truck and dismembered. Section 5 of Chapter 1. Yeah, KJ. Part of her stayed on the bridge. The other part went into the river. Shitty Christmas that year. You better believe it. I remember the reception after the funeral. It was at our house. My father was there greeting people and accepting condolences, and then he was gone. I asked his brother, my Uncle Bob, where he was. He had to lie down, Uncle Bob said. He was really worn out, Charlie. Why don't you go outside and play? I had never felt less like playing in my life, but I went outside. I passed a bunch of grown-ups who had come outside to smoke, and I heard one of them say, "Poor guy, drunk as a skunk." Even then, deep in grief for my mother, I knew who they were talking about. Before my mom died, my father was what I'd call a regular drinker. I was just a little kid in the 2nd grade, so I suppose you'd have to take that with a grain of salt, but I stand by it. I never heard him slurring. He didn't stumble around the place. He didn't go out to bars, and he never laid a hand on me or my mother. He would come home with his briefcase, and Mom would give him a drink, usually a martini. She'd have one too. In the evening, while we were watching TV, he might have a couple of beers. That was it. What are you guys talking about in here? Joseph is still rizzing up Daphne. Nice. Is Bug still in here? Is Bug enjoying the story? Put a peach in the chat if you're still in here. Peaches. Okay. Bug's still here. It's just that the viewer count doesn't always accurately reflect who's still in here, because I know we have at least 5 people in here and it says 4 people, so I think people are leaving, but I'm not. You can't always tell. It's weird how it does that. Anyway, I'll read that last line again. His mom, she'd have one too. In the evening while we were watching TV, he might have a couple of beers. That was it. All that changed after the goddamn bridge. Why does Bug only matter? Because Bug, I think, is the one who would actually be interested in listening or reading a story, because she's mature and an adult. And KJ... Anyway, he was drunk after that funeral as a skunk. Drunk on Christmas and drunk on New Year's Eve, which I found out later people like him call amateur night. In the weeks and months after we... Listen, I care, okay? Wow, I'm dead. In the weeks and months after we lost her, he was drunk most of the time. KJ, you matter so much. Everyone matters, true. Okay, all right, listen, I'm getting back to it. He was drunk after the funeral as a skunk, drunk on Christmas, drunk on New Year's Eve, which I found out later people like him call an amateur night. In the weeks and months after we lost her, he was drunk most of the time, mostly at home. He still didn't go out to bars at night. "Too many assholes like me," he said once. And he still never laid a hand on me. but the booze was out of control. I know that now. Then I just accepted it. Kids do that. Dogs, too. I found myself getting my own breakfast 2 mornings a week, then 4, then almost all the time. I'd eat alphabets or apple jacks in the kitchen and hear him snoring in the bedroom. Great big motorboat snores. Sometimes he forgot to shave before leaving for work. After dinner, more and more that was takeout. I'd hide his car keys. If he needed a fresh bottle, he would walk down to Zippy's and get one. Sometimes I worried about him meeting a car on that goddamn bridge, but not too much. I was sure, pretty sure at least, that both of my parents couldn't possibly get wiped out in the same place. My dad worked in insurance, and I knew what actuarial tables were. Actuarial tables, figuring the odds. He was good at his job, my dad, and he skated along for over 3 years in spite of his boozing. Did he get warnings at work? I don't know, but probably. Was he pulled over for driving erratically once the drinking started in the afternoon? If he was, maybe he was let off with a warning. Make that probably, because he knew all the cops in town. Dealing with cops was part of his job. There was a rhythm to our lives during those 3 years. Maybe not a good rhythm, not the sort you'd want to dance to, but one I could count on. I'd get home from school around 3. My father would roll in around 5, with a few drinks already under his belt and his breath. He didn't go out to the bars at night, but I found out later he was a regular at Duffy's Tavern on his way home from the office. He'd bring a pizza, or tacos, or Chinese from Joy Fun. Some nights he'd forget and we'd order out, or rather, I would. And after dinner, the real drinking would start, mostly gin. Gin. We found that out already. What is she making a new trend? Big motorboat. It's so funny to describe something. Snores. Some nights he'd forget and we'd order out. Right. Mostly gin. Other stuff if the gin was gone. Some nights he fell asleep in front of the TV. Some nights he'd stumble into the bedroom, leaving his shoes and rumpled suitcase for me to put away. Once in a while, I'd wake up and hear him crying. It's pretty awful to hear that in the middle of the night. The crash came in 2006. It was summer vacation. I had a shrimp league game at 10 in the morning. Hit 2 home runs and made an awesome catch. I came home just afternoon and found my father already there, sitting in his chair and staring at the TV, where old-time movie stars were having a duel on some castle stairs. He was in his undershorts and sipping a white drink that smelled to me like straight Gilbey's. I asked him what he was doing home. Still looking at the sword fight and hardly slurring at all, he said, "I seem to have lost my job, Charlie. Or if I can quote Bobcat Goldthwait, I know where it is, but someone else is doing it, or soon will be." I thought I didn't know what to say, but words came out of my mouth anyway. "Because of your drinking." "I'm going to stop," he said. I just pointed at the glass. Then I went into my bedroom, shut the door, started to cry. He knocked on my door. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer. I didn't want him to hear me blubbering. "Come on, Charlie." I poured it down the sink. Like I didn't know the rest of the bottle would be on the kitchen counter, and another one in the cabinet, or 2, or 3. "Come on, Charlie, what do you say?" "Shay." He slurred the word. I hated the slur in his voice. "Fuck you, Dad." I'd never said a thing to him in my life, and I sort of wanted him to come in and give me a slap, or a hug, something, anyway. Instead, I heard him shuffle into the kitchen, where the bottle of Gilbey's would be waiting. He was asleep on the couch when I finally came out. The TV was still on, but muted. It was some other black and white movie, this one featuring old cars racing around what was obviously a movie set. Dad always watched Turner Classic Movies when he was drinking, unless I was home and insisted on something else. The bottle was on the coffee table, mostly empty. I poured what was left down the sink. I opened the liquor cabinet and thought about pouring away everything else, but looking at the gin, the whiskey, the vodka nips, the coffee brandy, that just made me tired. You wouldn't think a 10-year-old could be tired like that, but I was. I put a Stouffer's frozen dinner in the microwave for supper. That's all for now. I will be there in 5. Shout out TCM, old. I put a Stouffer's frozen dinner in the microwave for supper, Grandma's chicken bake, our favorite, and shook him awake while it was cooking. He sat up, looked around like he didn't know where he was, then started to make these horrible chugging sounds I'd never heard before. He wove his way to the bathroom with his hands over his mouth, and I heard him puking. It seemed to me like it would never stop, but eventually it did. The microwave binged. I got the chicken bake out, using the oven mitts that said good cookin' on the left one and good eatin' on the right. You forget to use those mitts once in a while you're taking something hot out of the zapper, and then you never forget again. I blopped some on our plates, then went into the living room where Dad was sitting on the couch with his head down and his hands laced together on the back of his neck. Can you eat? He looked up. Maybe, if you bring me a couple of aspirin. The bathroom stank of gin and something else, maybe bean dip. But at least he'd gotten it all out in the bowl and flushed away. I sprayed some Glade around, then brought him the aspirin bottle and a glass of water. He took three and put the glass where the bottle of Gilby's had been. He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, even after Mom died. I hate to say this, but I'm going to, because it's what I thought then. It was an expression of a dog that has taken a shit on the floor. I could eat if you gave me a hug. I hugged him, and I said sorry for what I said. It's okay. Probably I deserved it. We went into the kitchen and ate as much of Grandma's chicken bake as we could manage, which wasn't very much. As he scraped our plates into the sink, he told me he was going to stop drinking, and that weekend, he did. He told me that on Monday he was going to start looking for a job, but he didn't. He stayed home, watched old movies on Turner Classic Movies, and when I came home from baseball practice and noon swim at the Y, he was pretty much blotto, which means drunk. He saw me looking at him and just shook his head. Tomorrow, I absolutely promise. I call bullshit, I said, and went into my room. All right, part 6 of chapter 1. That was the worst summer of my childhood. Was it worse than after your mother died, you could ask? And I'd say yes, because he was the only parent I had left, and because it all seemed to be happening in slow motion. He did make a half-hearted effort at job hunting the insurance biz, but nothing came of it, even when he shaved and bathed and dressed for success. Word gets around, I guess. The bills came in and piled up on the table in the front hall, unopened. By him, at least. I was the one who opened them when the stack got too high. I put them in front of him, and he wrote checks to cover them. I didn't know when those checks would start to bounce back, marked insufficient funds, and I didn't want to know. It was like standing on a bridge and imagining an out-of-control truck was skittering towards you, wondering what your last thoughts would be before it squashed you to death. I'm glad Daphne is reiterating everything in the chat so you guys can remember. Okay, I just said the other day that butt ugly needs to come back. KJ is butt ugly. Where do all these likes come from? How do we get to 14 likes and only 5 people in the chat? I don't understand. Also, I think Daphne is far behind because of her chats. She seems to be far behind in the live, but that's okay. He got a part-time job at the Jiffy Car Wash out by the Turnpike extension. That lasted a week. Then he either quit or got fired. He didn't tell me which, and I didn't ask. I made the All-Star Shrimp League team, but we got knocked out in the first 2 games of double elimination tournament. During the regular season, I'd hit 16 home runs. I was Star Market's best power hitter. But in those 2 games, I struck out 7 times. once at a ball in the dirt, and once sucking for a pitch so far over my head I would have needed an elevator to make contact. Coach asked what was wrong with me, and I said nothing. Nothing. Just leave me alone. I was doing bad shit, too. Some with a friend, some on my own. And not sleeping very well. I wasn't having nightmares like I did after my mother died. I just couldn't get to sleep, sometimes not until midnight or 1 in the morning. I started turning my clock around so I wouldn't have to look at the numbers. I didn't exactly hate my father, although I'm sure I would have come to in time, but I felt contempt for him. Weak, I'd think, lying in bed and listening to him snore. And of course I'd wonder what was going to happen to us. The car was paid for, which was good, but the house wasn't, and the size of those payments was horrifying to me. How long before he couldn't make the monthly nut? That time would surely come, because the mortgage had another 9 years to run, and there was no way the money would hold out that long. Homeless, I thought. The bank will take the house, like in the Grapes of Wrath, and we'll be homeless. I had seen homeless people downtown, plenty of them, and when I couldn't sleep, my mind turned to them. I thought about those urban wanderers a lot, wearing old clothes that bagged on their skinny bods or stretched on their corpulent ones, sneakers held together with duct tape, crooked glasses, long hair, crazy eyes, boozy breath. I thought about us sleeping in our car down by the old train yards or in the Walmart parking lot among the RVs. I thought of my father pushing a shopping cart full of all we had left. I always saw my bedside alarm clock in that basket. I don't know why that horrified me, but it did. Pretty soon I'd be going back to school, homeless or not. Some of the kids on my team would probably start calling me Strikeout Charlie, which would be better than Juicer's Kid Charlie. But how long before that got into the mix? People on our street already knew that George Reed didn't go to work anymore, and they almost certainly knew why. I didn't kid myself about that. We were never a church-going family, or religious at all in any conventional sense. Once I asked my mom why we didn't go to church. Was it because she didn't believe in God? She told me that she did, but she didn't need a minister or a priest or a rabbi to tell her how to believe in Him. She said she only needed to open her eyes and look around to do that. Dad said he was brought up to a Baptist, but quit going when his church got more interested in politics than the Sermon on the Mount. But one night, about a week before school was scheduled to start again, it came into my mind to pray. The urge was so strong, it was really a compulsion. I got down on my knees beside my bed, folded my hands, squeezed my eyes shut, and I prayed that my father would quit drinking. If you do that for me, whoever you are, I'll do something for you, I said. Promise and hope to die if I don't keep it. You just show me what you want, and I'll do it. I swear. Then I got back into bed, and that night, at least, I slept until morning. Part 7. You guys are talking more about memes than the book, but that's okay. I'll keep reading. What do we think so far? Let's do a little check-in. What do we think so far? I'm feeling great. I'm enjoying the story so far. It's quite depressing. It's talking about baseball and his drunk-ass dad. That's exactly what it's talking about. And how he might be homeless soon. So does everything bad happen because of this bridge? Well, so far, it doesn't seem directly. It's more like indirectly. You know, if it weren't for the metal on the bridge, when the old one used to be wooden, the truck wouldn't have slid out of control and hit his mom. Exactly, the bridge started the chain of events. Well, at least the remaking of the bridge. What's your question, Bug? I swore I heard Shrimp League earlier. Yeah, you heard it twice. He's in, it says right here, All-Star Shrimp League. Right there, All-Star Shrimp League. That's what they call his baseball team, because he's only 10. So. Thanks, Daphne. I guess it's just like Little League, you know, baseball team. You had it right. I saw you post a shrimp and a baseball emoji. That's what it is. Okay, part 7. I don't know how many parts there are before we get to chapter 2. Let me look ahead. Oh, we're not too far away from chapter 2. Daphne, are you tired? Because you've been running through my mind all day, baby. Mm-hmm. Daphne, you better look both ways before you cross my mind. I'm calling dudes who talk shit to me part of the Shrimp League. Good one. All right. Here we go, part 7. Before he was fired, Dad worked for Overland National Insurance. It's a big company. You've probably seen their ads, the ones with Bill and Jill and talking camels. Very funny stuff. Dad used to say, all the insurance companies use haha ads to get eyeballs, but the laughing stops once the insured files a claim. That's where I come in. I'm a claims adjuster, which means, nobody says it out loud, that I'm supposed to knock that contractual amount down. Sometimes I do, but here's the secret. I always start out on the claimant's side, unless I find reasons not to be, that is. Overland's Midwest headquarters is on the outskirts of Chicago, in what Dad called Insurance Alley. In his commuting days, it was just a 40-minute drive from Century, an hour if the traffic was heavy. There were at least 100 claims adjusters working out of that office. And on one day, in September of '08, one of the agents he used to work with came to see him. Lindsey Franklin was his name. Dad called him Lindy. It was in the late afternoon, and I was at the kitchen table doing my homework. That day had gotten off to a memorably shitty start. The house still smelled faintly of smoke, even though I'd sprayed around the glade. Dad had decided to make omelets for breakfast. God knows why he was up at 6 a.m., or why he decided I needed an omelet, but he wandered away to use the bathroom or turn on the TV and forgot about what was on the stove. Still half loaded from the night before, no doubt. I woke up to the bray of the smoke detector, ran into the kitchen in my underwear, and found smoke billowing up in a cloud. The thing in the fry pan looked like a charred log. Yo, Daphne Rizz is fire. Wait, John, I thought it was today's morning I woke up and I felt tired because I didn't know it's because of you. We're reading a depressing story and you guys are all rizzing each other. I love it. I scraped it down the garbage disposal and ate Apple Jacks. Dad was still wearing an apron, which looks stupid. He tried to apologize and I mumbled something just to get him to shut up. What I remember about those weeks and months is that he was always trying to apologize, and it drove me bugfuck. It drove me bugfuck. But it was also a memorably good day, one of the best days, because of what happened that afternoon. You're probably way ahead of me on this, but I'll tell you anyway, because I never stopped loving my dad, even when I didn't like him, and this part of the story makes me happy. Lindy Franklin worked for Overland. He was also a recovering alcoholic. He wasn't one of those claim agents who was particularly close to my father, because Lindy never stopped at Duffy's Tavern after work with the other guys. But he knew why my dad had lost his job, and he decided to do something about it. To give it a try, at least. He made what I later learned is called a 12th step visit. He had a bunch of claims appointments in our town, and once he finished with those, he decided on the spur of the moment to stop by our place. He later said he almost changed his mind because he didn't have backup. Recovering alcoholics usually make 12th step visits with a partner, sort of like Mormons. But then he said, "What the hell," and looked up our address on his phone. I don't like to think what might have happened to us if he decided not to. I never would have been inside Mr. Bowditch's shed, that's for sure. What the hell is happening at Bowditch's shed? Remember, he talked about that at the beginning of the book. Mr. Franklin was wearing a suit and tie. He had a sharp haircut, Dad. Unshaven, shirt untucked, barefoot. Oh, Mr. Franklin had a sharp haircut. Dad was unshaven, shirt untucked, barefoot, introduced us. Mr. Franklin shook my hand, said it was very nice to meet me, then asked if I minded going outside so he could speak to my father alone. I went willingly enough, but the windows were still open from the breakfast disaster, and I heard quite a bit of what Mr. Franklin said. I remember two things especially. Dad said the drinking was because he still missed Janie so much. And Mr. Franklin said, if booze would bring her back, I'd say fine, but it won't. And how would she feel if she saw how you and your boy are living now? The other thing he said was, aren't you sick and tired of being sick and tired? That was when my father started to cry. Usually I hated it when he did that. Weak. But I thought maybe this crying was different. All right, part number 8. You knew all that was coming, and probably you know the rest of the story as well. I'm sure you do if you're in recovery, or know someone who is. Lindy Franklin took my dad to an AA meeting that night. When they got back, Mr. Franklin called his wife and said he was staying over with a friend. He slept on a pull-out couch, and the next morning he took Dad to a 7 a.m. meeting called Sober Sunrise. That became Dad's regular meeting, and it was where he got his first year AA medallion. I skipped school so I could give it to him, and that time I was the one who did some blubbing. No one seemed to mind. There's a lot of blubbing at those meetings. Dad gave me a hug afterward, and so did Lindy. By then, I was calling him by his first name because he was around a lot. He was my dad's sponsor in the program. That was the miracle. I know a lot about AA now, and know it happens to men and women all over the world. Oh, that's why earlier he said his dad had a miracle that happens to lots of people. That makes sense. And I know it happens to men and women around all over the world, but it still seemed like a miracle to me. Dad didn't get his first medallion exactly a year after Lindy's 12th step call because he had a couple of slips, but he owned up to them, and the AA people said what they always say, keep coming back, and he did. And the last sip, a single beer from a six-pack he poured down the sink, was just before Halloween of 2009. When Lindy spoke at Dad's first anniversary, he said that lots of people get offered the program, but never get the program. He said Dad was one of the lucky ones. Maybe that was true. Maybe my prayer was just a coincidence, but I chose to believe it wasn't. In AA, you can choose to believe what you want. It's in what recovering alcoholics call the big book. Also, I had a promise to keep. Who remembers what his promise was, huh? Who remembers what his promise was? Come on. Who's been listening? We're on part 9 now. We'll do a little check-in. Drink some water because my voice is getting hoarse. I'll be the first man to admit I don't know. KJ's making me read this book and he's too busy rizzing up Daphne. His promise was that if his dad quit drinking, dude, I was not. I said 2. One is a joke, and the other one, just the one up Joseph. Just to one up Joseph. Yes. He promised to his dad he would quit drinking. If his dad quit drinking, he would do something big. Something for God, he said. Anyway. Bug, you were close enough. I think I know where you're going. Okay. Part 9. I was gonna make some bullshit up to do something when his dad stopped drinking. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I thought I missed something specific. It wasn't specific. It was just to do something for God, whoever he is, or whoever he was praying to. Not even necessarily God. The only meetings I went to were Dad's anniversary meetings. But as I say, Lindy was around a lot, and I picked up most of the slogans AA people were always spouting. I liked, "You can't turn a pickle back into a cucumber," and "God don't make junk." But the one that stuck with me, and does to this day, is something I heard Lindy tell Dad one night when Dad was talking about all the unpaid bills and how he was afraid of losing the house. Lindy said my father getting sober was a miracle. Then he added, "But miracles ain't magic." 6 months after sobering up, Dad reapplied at Overland, and with Lindy Franklin and some others backing him up, including his old boss, the one who pink-slipped him, he got his job back. But he was on probation and knew it. That made him work twice as hard. Then, in the fall of 2011, 2 years sober, he had a discussion with Lindy that lasted so long that Lindy ended up sleeping on the pull-out couch again. Dad said he wanted to go independent, but he wouldn't do it without Lindy's blessing. After making sure that Dad wouldn't start drinking again if his new business failed, as sure as he could be anyway, recovery ain't rocket science either, Lindy told him to go ahead and take a shot. Dad sat down and explained to me what that meant, working without a net. "So, what do you think?" "I think you should say adios to those talking camels," I told him, and that made him laugh. Then I said what I had to, "But if you start drinking again, you'll screw it all up." 2 weeks later, he gave Overland his notice, and in February of 2012, he hung out his shingle in a tiny office on Main Street. George Reed, investigator and independent claims adjuster. He didn't spend much time in that hole in the wall. Mostly he was out pounding the pavement. He talked to cops, he talked to bail bondsmen, always good for leads, he said. But mostly he talked to lawyers. A lot of them knew him from his work at Overland, and he knew he was on the square. And they knew he was on the square. They gave him jobs, the tough ones, where the big companies were either drastically reducing the amount of money they were willing to pay or denying the claim altogether. He worked long, long hours. Most nights I came home to an empty house and cooked my own dinner. I didn't mind. At first, when my dad finally did come in, I hugged him so I could surreptitiously smell his breath for the unforgettable aroma of Gilby's gin. After a while, though, I just hugged him, and he rarely missed a sober sunrise meeting. Sometimes Lindy would come to lunch on Sundays, usually bringing takeout, and the three of us would watch the Bears on TV, or the White Sox if it was baseball season. On one of those afternoons, my father said business was picking up every month. It would go faster if I got on the claimant side more often in slip and fall cases, but so many of them smelled bad. "Tell me about it," Lindy said. "You can make short-term gains, but in the end, that work would bite you on the ass." Gator Light is a ridiculous name. Don't let me pencil blind when this... The fuck did you say? Gator Light isn't knockoff. It's still branded the same brand. It's just like Pedialyte, exactly. Just before the start of my junior year at Hillview High, Dad said we had to have a serious talk. I braced myself for a lecture about underage drinking or a discussion about some of the crap I and my friend Bertie Bird, what a great name, had gotten up to during and for a while after his drinking years. But neither of those were what he had in mind. It was school he wanted to talk about. He told me I had to do well if I wanted to get into a good college. Really well. My business is going to work. It was scary at first. There was that time when I had to reach out to my brother for a loan, but that's almost paid back, and I think I'll be on solid ground before long. The phone rings a lot. When it comes to college, though, he shook his head, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you out much, at least to start with. We're damn lucky to be solvent at all, which is my fault. I'm doing everything I can to remedy the situation. I know, I said, But you need to help yourself. You need to work. You need to score high on the SATs when you take them. Is Daphne even here? Daphne was here repeating everything I was reading, but now she's gone. I plan to take the Scholastic Aptitude, is that the SAT, in December, but didn't say so. Dad was on a roll. You also need to think about loans, but only at a last resort. Those loans will haunt you for a long time. Think scholarships. And play your sports. That's also a road to scholarships, but mostly it's grades. Grades, grades, grades. I don't need you to graduate valedictorian, but I need you to see you in the top 10. Understand? Yes, Father, I said, and he gave me a playful swat. Part 10. Daphne left, which is unbelievable because she's always first here and last to leave. She must have got bored of fairy tale. I studied hard and made my grades. I played football in the fall and baseball in the spring. I made varsity in both sports as a sophomore. Coach Harkness wanted me to play basketball as well, but I told him no. I said I needed at least 3 months a year to do other things. Coach went away shaking his head at the sad state of youth in this degenerate age. I went to some dances. I kissed some girls. I made some good friends, most of them jocks, but not all. I discovered some metal bands I liked, and I played them loud. My dad never protested, but he got me earpods for Christmas. There were terrible things in my future. I'll tell you about them eventually. But none of the terrible things I had lain awake imagining ever came to pass. It was still our house, and my key still unlocked the front door. That was good. If you've ever imagined you might wind up spending cold winter nights in a car or a homeless shelter, you know what I'm talking about. And I never forget the deal I made with God. If you do that for me, I'll do something for you, I'd said. On my knees, I said it. You just show me what you want and I'll do it, I swear. It had been a child's prayer, so much magical thinking. But part of me, most of me, didn't believe that, doesn't now. I thought my prayer had been answered, just like in one of those corny Lifetime movies they show between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which meant I had my end of the bargain to hold up. I felt that if I didn't, God would take back the miracle and my dad would start drinking again. You have to keep in mind that high school kids, no matter how big the boys, no matter how beautiful the girls, are still mostly children inside. If I was that kid, I'd get good grade, and watching my mother get ripped in half, then my dad drinking himself away, then sleeping in a car or a homeless shelter. He didn't end up sleeping in the homeless shelter. He was just worried about it. And it didn't come to pass, which was a blessing. Because his dad got a job again. And then opened his own independent insurance business. I tried, in spite of the days, not just crammed with school and after-school activities, but bulging with them. I did my best to pay back what I owed. I joined a key club, Adopt a Highway commitment. We got 2 miles of Highway 226, which is basically a wasteland of fast food joints, motels, and gas stations. I must have picked up a bazillion Big Mac boxes, 2 bazillion beer cans, and at least a dozen pairs of cast-off undies. One Halloween, I put on a stupid orange jumper and went around collecting for UNICEF. In the summer of 2012, I sat at a voter registration table downtown, although I was still a year and a half from being old enough to vote myself. I also helped out at my dad's office on Fridays after practice, filing papers and doing computer input stuff, your basic scut work, as it grew dark outside and we ate pizza from Giovanni straight out of the box. Dad said all that stuff would look great on my college applications, and I agreed without telling him that wasn't why I was doing it. I didn't want God deciding I wasn't holding up my end. But sometimes I thought I could hear a heavenly whisper of disapproval. Not good enough, Charlie. Do you really think picking up roadside trash is payback for the good life you and your father are living now? Which brings me, finally, to April of 2013, the year I was 17. And Mr. Bowdwich. Okay, we're about to get to like the beginning of the actual story. Part 11. Good old Hillview High. Seems like a long time ago to me now. In the winter, I rode the bus, sitting at the back with Andy Chin, a friend of mine since elementary. Andy was a jock who went on to play basketball for Hofstra? He went to play basketball for Hofstra. Bertie was gone by then, his friend Bertie Bird. I definitely understand trying to barter with God over his dad after that happened, after what happened to his mom, though. Yeah, definitely. So his friend Bertie was gone by then, moved away. He was sitting at the back of the bus with Andy Chin, which was kind of a relief. There is such a good thing as a good friend who is also a bad friend. In truth, Bertie Bird and I were bad for each other. In the fall and spring, I rode my bike because we live in a hilly town, and biking was a good way to build up muscle strength in my legs and my backside. It also gave me time to think and be alone, which I liked. Heading home from HHS, Hillview High School, it was Plain Street to Joff Avenue, then Willow Street to Pine Avenue. Pine Street intersected with Sycamore at the top of the hill that led down to the goddamn bridge. And on the corner of Pine and Sycamore was the Psycho House, so named by Bertie Bird when we were only 10 or 11. It was actually the Bowditch House. The name was right on the mailbox, faded but still legible if you squinted. Still, Bertie had a point. We had all seen that movie, along with such other required 11-year-old viewings such as The Exorcist and The Thing, and it didn't look sort of like the house. It did look sort of like the house where Norman Bates lived with his stuffed mother. It wasn't like any of the other neat little duplexes and ranchers on Sycamore and in the rest of our neighborhood. The Psycho House was a rambling, slump-roofed Victorian, once probably white, but now faded to a shade I'd call feral barn cat gray. BRB, guys, I gotta check my YouTube channel. Okay, that's fine, Joseph. I actually gotta use the potty real quick, so just give me a second. But we're getting to the good spot, the Psycho House. I have returned. I think it's just down to Joseph, KJ, and Bug in here. No more your mom, no more Daphne. That's okay. We're almost at the end of this chapter. So we just got finished describing the Psycho House. It's a rambling, slump-proof Victorian, once probably white, but now faded to a shade he'd called feral barn cat gray. There was an ancient picket fence running the length of the property, leaning forward in places and sagging in others. A rusty waist-high gate barred the broken paving of the walk. The grass was mostly weeds that had run rampant. The porch looked like it was slowly coming detached from the house to which it belonged. All the shades were drawn, which Andy Chen said was pointless since the windows were too dirty to see through anyway. Half buried in the tall grass was a no trespassing sign. On the gate was a bigger sign reading, "Beware of dog." Andy had a story about that dog, a German shepherd named Radar, like the guy in that MASH TV show. Have you guys seen MASH? That's a great show. The dog is named after Radar. We'd all heard him, not knowing this Radar was actually a her, and had gotten the occasional glimpse, but Andy was the only one who'd seen the dog up close. He said he stopped on his bike one day because Mr. Bowdwich's mailbox was open and stuffed so full of junk mail that some of it had fallen onto the sidewalk and was blowing around. "I picked up the litter and crammed it back in with the rest of the crap," Andy said. "I was just trying to do him a favor, for crying out loud. Then I hear this growling and barking that was like a yabba yabba row row." What? How is that? How is that a description of barking? Yabba yabba, row row. Anyway, and I look up and here comes this fucking monster dog. Must have weighed 120 pounds at least. And he's all teeth with slobber flying back, and his eyes are fucking red. "Sure," Bertie said, "monster dog, like Cujo in that movie." "Right." "It was," Andy said. "Swear to God, if it hadn't been for the old guy yelling at him, he would have gone right through that gate, which is so old it needs Medicare." "No, Medicure," he says. And then Charlie, the main character, corrects, "Medicare," I said. "Whatever, dude." But the old guy comes out on the porch and he yells, "Radar, down!" And the dog dropped right down on his belly. Only it never stopped looking at me, and it never stopped growling. Then the guy goes, "What are you doing there, boy? Are you still in my mail?" So I go, "No, sir. It was blowing around, and I was just picking it up. Your mailbox is awful full, sir." And he goes, "I'll worry about my mailbox. You just get out of here." Which I did. Andy shook his head. "That dog would have torn my throat out. I know it." I was sure Andy was exaggerating. Wait, hey, Jazz, I was seeing if you were... I'm reading a book, Jazz. It's Fairy Tale by Stephen King. This chapter's almost over. Do you want me to give you a little recap of what happened so far, so you can hear the end of the chapter? Fairy Tale. Yes, so basically, it's about a boy who was growing up and is now 17. And while he was growing up, his dad didn't drink much, but his mom died. She got hit by a car on a bridge. The goddamn bridge, they keep calling it, because it used to be a wooden bridge, but then it was remade metal, and a car slid and hit his mom as she was walking home with chicken dinner. And it hit her so hard that she kind of got dismembered. Part of her stayed on the bridge, and part of her went into the river. I don't remember the name of the river, the little something. And then his dad drank a lot, lost his job, and the main character, Charlie, worried about being homeless. And then after some time, after the boy prayed, and he attributes his dad getting sober and going to AA to his prayer. His dad, yeah, there's 5 people. His dad got offered his job back after being sober for, I think, a year. The person who was his sponsor was a guy he used to work with. And now the kid has grown up. It started the book, he was 10 or 11, and now he's about 17, thinking about going to college. Okay? We just got to the interesting part, though. He's about to start talking about the psycho house, he calls it. It's just down the street past the goddamn bridge. And it's kind of all in shambles. Used to be white, but now it's faded gray. Boarded up windows. Or not boarded up, but like always has the blinds drawn. And his friend was just telling a story. His friend Andy was just telling a story about how he was picking up the mail that had fallen out of the mailbox in front of the psycho house. And the owner, Mr. Bowdwich, had come outside. First, his dog came outside and was snarling at Andy. And if it wasn't for Mr. Bowditch coming outside and stopping the dog, he says it would have torn his throat out. And Mr. Bowditch was not very appreciative of him picking up the mail. He basically told him, "Scram, kid. I'll deal with my mailbox on my own." And that's basically the recap so far. He says, "I was sure Andy was exaggerating. He had a habit of doing that. But I asked Dad about Mr. Bowditch that night. Dad said he didn't know much about him, just that he was a lifelong bachelor who'd been living in that wreck of a house for longer than Dad had been living on Sycamore Street, which was going on 25 years. Your friend Andy isn't the only kid he's yelled at," Dad said. "Bowditch is famous for his foul temper and his equally foul-tempered German Shepherd." The German Shepherd's name is Radar, by the way, and it's a girl. They thought it was a boy, but it's a girl. "The town council would love for him to die so they can tear that place down, but so far he's hanging in there. I speak to him when I see him, which is rarely, and he seems civil enough, but I'm an adult. Some elderly guys have an allergy to kids. Steer clear of him would be my advice, Charlie." Which was no problem until that day in April of 13, which I will now tell you about. So he kind of hinted at the beginning of the book that 2 things were kind of the start of this story, or the start of things going downhill in his life. 1, his mom dying on the bridge, and 2, the shed at Mr. Bowditch's house. So the first 18 pages have been kind of filling in kind of how we got here. And now we're here, Mr. Bowditch's house, April 2013. It's part 12 in the book now. And this is the last part before chapter 2. Okay. "I stopped at the corner of Pine and Sycamore on my way home from baseball practice to unpeel my left hand from the handlebars of my bike and gave it a shake. It was still red and throbbing from the afternoon drills in the gym. The field was still too muddy to be playable. Coach Harkness, who coached baseball as well as hoops, had me on first while a number of guys trying out for pitcher practiced pickoff throws." Say that 5 times fast. Pitcher practice pickoff throws. "Some of those guys threw really hard. I won't say Coach was getting back at me for refusing to play basketball, where the Hedgehogs had gone 520 the previous season, but I won't say he wasn't either. Mr. Bowditch's slumped and rambling old Victorian was on my right, and from that angle it looked more like the psycho house than ever. I was wrapping my hand around the left grip of my bike, ready to get going again, when I heard a dog let out a howl. It came from behind the house. I thought of the monster dog Andy had described, all big teeth and red eyes above its slavering jaws. But this was no yabba yabba row row. That's how he described the barking, by the way, Jazz. Yabba yabba row row. Anyway, this was no yabba yabba row row of a vicious attack animal. It sounded sad and scared, maybe even desolate. I have thought back on that wondering if it's only hindsight, and have decided it wasn't, because it came again, and a third time, but low and kind of unwinding, as if the animal making it was thinking, what's the use? Then, much lower than that last unwinding howl, help! If not for those howls, I would have coasted down the hill to my house and had a glass of milk and half a box of Pepperidge Farm Milanos, happy as a clam, which would have been bad for Mr. Bowditch. It was getting late, the shadows drawing long enough towards evening, and that was a damn cold April. Mr. Bowditch could have lain there all night. JB, I want you to narrate my life. Space, welcome back. I got the credit for saving him. Another gold star for my college applications. He wants to get into a good college because his dad can't really afford to put him through college. He was, what the heck is an iCarly? His dad started it, he got his job back, but then he started up his own business as an insurance adjuster, and it was going well, but he still owed debts, so he couldn't afford to put his son through college. Anyway, I got the credit for saving him, another gold star for my college applications. Should I throw modesty to the wind, as my father suggested, and attach the newspaper article that was published a week later? But it wasn't me, not really. It was radar that saved him, and those desolate howls. There we go. That is the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2. Mr. Bowditch, radar, night in the psycho house. And that's where we're going to end tonight. That was 20 pages. 20 long fucking pages. Peaches in the chat. Night, that's my emoji now. It's peaches in the chat. Yeah, the next chapter is going to be really interesting. I think people will like listening a lot more. Thanks, Bug. I appreciate it. I think the story is going to pick up a lot more now that we're not talking so much about insurance and his drunk dad and all that recap of his early life. I think it's going to get a lot more interesting. Woo, peaches in the chat. I love seeing all the peaches. Listen, that was the good part. I like this stream because now I got a date and I get to listen to you read. Who do you have a date with? Is it Daphne? She's not going to go on a date with you. She has 18 boyfriends. No, Joseph. You're hilarious. Nighthouse, do you want to see my vinyl collection? I don't think you were here for my vinyls. And then I can show you my manga collection. Everyone already saw it, but I want you to see because, you know, you're my friend and you inspired me to start streaming, so I don't know. These are just interesting things that I have and I thought you might like to see them. Okay, I'm locked out on Spotify. Maybe, just maybe, if you used Apple Music, maybe you would never get locked out. Maybe, I'm just saying. Nipsey Hussle. Shut up with the Apple promo. Nipsey Hussle on gold marbled vinyl. That's one of my favorite ones, the gold marble. Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace. Wait. Bug, did you not see these earlier? We got Pop Smoke. I don't know if Pop Smoke is on a colored vinyl. I think it might be. Ooh, I didn't show this one earlier. Pop Smoke is on a blue. I forgot about blue. Beautiful blue. Most of my, yeah, Dior. KJ Dior. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's one of my favorite songs from him. We've got Kendrick Lamar. Good Kid, Mad City. On clear vinyl. I mostly go for vinyl that's colored or clear. That's what I really want in my collection. And you'll notice that. You can name a number off the album and I'd know it. Okay, what's song number 3? Song number 3. Huh? Song number 3, KJ. Yeah, you just looked it up. You just looked it up. Come on. No, you're right. It's Backstreet Freestyle. You got that one right. Then we've got Kanye West, College Dropout. He Googled that shit. I know he did. All right, we'll put him to the test one more time. Hold on. Let me do another one. Let me do another one. Kanye West. What's song number 7? Song number 7. Yeah, Kanye West. Flashing Lights isn't even on this album. What are you... That's not even a song name. That's not even a Kendrick song. What are you on about? You really are bluffing. Also, you know how vinyls work. It's not even like song 1, 2. It's 4 songs side A, 4 songs side B, then album, then the second. Oh no, I was talking about the Kendrick album. I was talking about the Kendrick album. Night House. Then I've got Tyler, the Creator, Igor. This is one of my favorites. I love Tyler, the Creator. Tyler Okoma. He's amazing. We love Tyler. Igor. He's got his beautiful blonde wig on the inside jacket. Okay, and then my non-rap albums. We've got Taylor Swift, Evermore, on this beautiful green vinyl. Oops. Taylor Swift, yes. And then 21 Pilots, Vessel, on a gray, kind of like a marbled gray in a way, vinyl. Then 21 Pilots, Blurry Face. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. I probably have every And this one's on nice red. I probably have every song on this album memorized. And then 21 Pilots, again, scaled and icy. I love the cover for this one. And I love this album. And this one's on a nice blue. This is one of my favorite looking ones. And the album jacket, or whatever. It's like that. Anyway, now you've seen it all. I want to eat the blue. Okay. Okay. I won't judge ya. Okay. JB, you need a Kanye. I know, Space. I want all of his older albums. I don't want his newer albums because they kind of suck, but I want his older albums. How about this name? How about this? Name a number and I'll tell you the Kendrick song because I know all his stuff is gross. What? I was talking about Kendrick. Anyway. Okay, one more try. Okay, TJ. What is song number 9? Song number 9 on the Good Kid, Mad City album. I have a gyatt. No. You're very close. That's song number 10. That's song number 10, KJ. What's song number 9? I do have a gyatt. Okay, it's real. That's song number 11. Now you're going up. What's song number 9? Go back. Now I done grew up around some people living their life in bottles. Granted, he had the golden flashback stroke every in Chicago. Some people like the way it feels. Some people want to kill their sorrows. Some people want to fit in with the popular. That was my problem. I was in the dark room, loud tunes, looking to make a vow soon. I'm gonna get fucked up, then I back up. I see the crowd move, changing by the minute. The record on repeat. Took a sip, then another sip. Then somebody said to me, baby, why you babysitting? Only 2 or 3 shots. I'ma show you how to turn it up a notch. First you get a swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in. Swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in. And I wave a few bottles and I watch them all flock. All the girls wanna play Baywatch. First you get a swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in. Swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in. Pull up, drink. Headshot, drink. That's a Kendrick song I obviously have memorized. As you can tell, I love that song. Okay. Now open your mind up and listen to me, Kendrick. I am your conscious right now. If you do not hear me, then you will be history, Kendrick. I know that you're nauseous right now, but I'm trying to lead you to victory, Kendrick. Anyway. Yeah, Kendrick's my favorite. He's my favorite artist of all time. Okay, and now I will show you my... This is a vape, Jazz. You asked me the other day if I was hitting the vape, and the answer is yes. I quit drinking, and I quit smoking pot, and I took up vaping as an interim vice, and I'm going to quit it eventually. Quit judging me. Quit judging me. Okay. Now here's the manga collection, okay? It's a lot. Bomb says no more vape. Okay, first, we've got Comey Can't Communicate. It's great. We love it. There's number 12 right there. 11, 1 through 11, 12. I've got the Tokyo Ghoul box set. Okay. Then I've got Chainsaw Man, all the ones that are currently out. Blood on the Tracks, up to the most recent one as well. We love this manga. It's great. Fruits Basket. That's what K is. K is a fruit basket. K is a fruit basket. I've got Lore Olympus, all of the ones that are currently out, but my friend stole number 4 from me. Oh, there's number 16 of Blood on the Tracks. You read Fruits Basket? It's a good one. I like it. Then we've got some One Punch Man, and then Fire Punch, who is the same author as Chainsaw Man. I only need the 8th one. I'm missing the 8th one. Parasite. I Am a Hero. Soul Eater. Wait, there we go. Soul Eater. JoJo's. Darling in the Franxx. Dan to Dan. Dan to Dan is one of my favorites. It is so good. You guys should read Dan to Dan. It is so good. It's so funny. So good. And then we've got Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which I haven't even read, but I have 4 of them now. I got this one, Kaguya-sama Love is War. I've heard that's a really good one, but I can't find any more at Barnes & Noble. Kaiju number 8. Yeah, Chainsaw Man is amazing. It's one of my favorites also. And we've got Vinland Saga, some Sailor Moon. This one is really good. Dorohedoro, but these are so expensive. No, I'm not doing a room tour. It's too dirty. Yeah, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. It's about like a genie who lives in a toilet. Frieren. This one is one of my favorites. I love Frieren. Hell's Paradise. Akane Banshi. Oh, this one is so funny. I only have the first one, but it's so funny. Let me show you guys one page from this. Okay, hold on. Where do I buy them? Mostly at Barnes & Noble. I have a Barnes & Noble subscription or whatever. Okay, let me just read you the first couple of pages of Rooster Fighter. It's so funny. Emergency evacuation alert. A demon has appeared. Evacuate the area immediately. It's a woman with big old tits. My hand is shaking like a motherfucker. I haven't eaten anything today. She's running. Yeah, you pay $35 a year and you get 10% off of Barnes & Noble. Whoa! Yuki! The kid fell. Okay, hold on. He's getting picked up. Yuki! Mom! Oh, no. She's about to put Yuki in her mouth. Snatch. Glare. She's pissed. Huh? That's enough of you having your way. Of you demons having your way. Every single one of you is going down. Oh my God, look at that shit. Look at that motherfucker. Look at his legs. This dude fucking cracks my ass up. Okay, but I gotta read you this next part. It's so funny. This is the story of how one rooster saved humanity 1 year ago. Cluck, cluck, quack, quack. He's getting it on. Thrust, thrust. He's fucking another chicken. Cock-a-doodle-doo. But wait. He's sitting there cuddling with the chicken, and she's all in love. She's glowing. She's glowing. And he's just like, shh. He gets up, starts walking away. Cluck? She says, Cluck? You're leaving? You're leaving? And he says, I was born to wander. Peace and quiet don't suit me. You were just toying with me? Or she says, you were just toying with me? No. I just gave in to my animal instincts. Squawk! I just gave in to my animal instincts. Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. That shit kills me. That's too good. Who thought of that book? She's like, baby, come back. He's like, I'm not a one chicken rooster. It's a good parody. It is really good. Really good parody. Okay, but anyway, the rest of the collection. This one's a good art manga. You would like this one. It's about an artist. Blue period. Knight would really like that one. Guaranteed. I can't put it back. Hold on. The Boxer. This one is sick because this is called a manhwa, which means it's from Korea, and they come full color. They come nice and colorful. Anyway, don't look at that one. My Dress Up Darling. Don't look at this one. Just kidding. It's not what you think it is. You'd also like this one, Jazz. You would like this one a lot. It's about a guy who starts making... cosplay outfits for this girl at his school because he makes dolls with his dad because he lives in Japan and he makes like traditional dolls. And she sees him working on one when he's in the sewing room, and she's like, "Hey, could you make me an outfit?" And so he starts making her outfits. Then we've got One Piece. Lots of One Piece. Those are what they call. I forget what they call it, but there's 3 novels each. 3 in each of those. And this one is really good. I love this one, Oshinoko. It's about a pop star who dies, and 2 people are reincarnated as her children before she dies. That happens right at the beginning. This is my only sports manga, but it's a great sports manga. Okay, Blue Lock. I love it. It's really good. Got some Jujutsu Kaisen. Mob Psycho, which I keep current with. That's all the Mob Psychos that are out right now. I love Mob Psycho, one of my favorites. The anime is amazing. You guys should watch the anime. Oh, shit. And then this is Vagabond, and then I have one book of Full Metal Alchemist. Then I've got these big ass leather-bound Berserk deluxe editions. Each one has 3 Berserks in it, and they have this really nice, if you can see, this really nice bookmark. And then Monster. Monster is very good too. And that's it. Besides also here's Deadpool Samurai. Deadpool Samurai. There's Tomie Knight. You would know about Tomie. Yeah, it's a pretty big collection. I like it. And then here's my other Junji Ito's Knight. Junji Ito. All of those are Junji Ito's. Anyway. Now, since we're nerding out, I'll show you guys my handheld collection. You have Black Paradox. I've read all of those. The only Junji Ito that I own that I haven't read yet is Tomie over there. I haven't read Tomie yet. It's the only one. But he's come out with so many recently that I don't have. Handhelds, like games. Okay, this is a little Game Boy. This thing is sick. If you guys don't have or have never heard of this company, Ann Bernick, okay, this thing plays PlayStation 1. It plays Sega Genesis. It plays Game Boy Advance. And all the other Game Boys, obviously. And some other cool shit. Yes, way. I will show you. Do you want to see a PlayStation 1 game? Okay, there's a ton of... These are Game Boy Advance games. I've got a ton of them. You have to download them all and put the box art on yourself. Okay, but... See, Game Boy Advance. Game Gear. What is that? Neo Geo Pocket. Regular Game Boy Color. Oh, but I don't have any PlayStation 1 games on there. Because they're not the best to play on. Wait, yes I do. Hold on. Why is it? Okay. Here, I will show you a PlayStation 1 game. Final Fantasy Tactics. Except this is a mod of Final Fantasy Tactics that is a mod with the... It's a PlayStation 1. It's the Final Fantasy Tactics on PlayStation 1. But it's a mod to make it the PSP version. Because I wanted it to be small. It's a handheld. But this is a mod of the PlayStation version of Final Fantasy 1. Anyway, you guys know. The speaker's on the back. But it's pretty good. Final Fantasy Tactics. Yeah, I've played a ton of games on it. For one, Game Boy, this is as big as the Game Boy Advance SP screen. It's actually slightly bigger than the Game Boy Advance SP screen. So if you ever had a Game Boy Advance when you were a kid, you would be used to this kind of a screen already. And now playing PlayStation games on it like this one is a little different, but anyway. I love the color scheme too, the gold and the red. It's sick. Okay. No, not PS2. It just goes up to PS1. This, a Game & Watch. Nintendo Zelda. Nintendo Zelda Game & Watch. It's dead. Hold on, I'll plug it in. This plays Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and Zelda Link's Awakening from the Game Boy. I know, I'm pretty cool. I'm a pretty cool guy, you know. Hold on, I'll plug it in. And it's USB-C cable too, which is nice. And it's a watch, because it's a Game & Watch. Look. A watch. Yes, this is a Nintendo product. Nintendo. It came out for the 35th anniversary of Zelda. But you can choose Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and then Zelda Link's Awakening. And you can do it in either English or Japanese. English or Japanese. But I mean, come on. Link's Awakening? I mean, come on. Who doesn't want Link's Awakening on a sick little handheld? And it glows the Triforce on the back. Come on. What are we even talking about? Come on. It's beautiful. And it's got this nice green color palette for the Game Boy game. Listen to that Zelda music. You guys are hilarious. You guys make me feel like a nerd. Also, we've got Nintendo 3DS with Luigi's Mansion that I'm in the middle of right now. Who doesn't need some Luigi's Mansion in their life? Come on, Luigi's Mansion, anybody? The first one? Anyway, there's that. I know, I've got too much stuff. And then the last one. Oh, it's dirty. Oh my god, why is it so dirty? It's been in this case the whole time. My PlayStation Vita. Hell yeah. Who doesn't like a PlayStation Vita? Anyway, I guess you could also call my Nintendo Switch a handheld, but nobody cares. But that's my handheld collection. Heck yeah. Alright, guys. It was fun showing off the things that make me happy, the things that I've collected over the years. And, great stream again, as always. It was fun reading to you. We'll start on chapter 2 tomorrow. Who's ready for chapter 2? The Psycho House, huh? Bug, are you ready? Would you be ready? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Chapter 2 tomorrow. Okay. Shit's gonna get real. People are gonna die. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't read it. I'm gonna stay ready so I won't have to get ready. Okay. Oh. Also, wait. One more cool thing I could show you guys. My dope-ass board. Shoot. Shoot. You guys thought I was messing around when I said I longboard? Hell nah. What the heck? Longboard, baby. This isn't actually a longboard, it's a cruiser board, but I have a longboard in my car. Anyway. Now you've seen all the cool stuff. Yeah, I like the logo. He was a skater boy. He said, see you later, boy. Maybe next time I go live, I'll rip down the hill on this thing. I rip on this thing. It gets wild. I go down the hill on one foot in the crane pose with my other foot up, like, you know, like Crane from Karate Kid. You know the Karate Kid, how he does the crane. I could rip harder than Blake's underwear. Just you bet. Rip harder. Blake's underwear ain't got nothing on my ripping. They call me, they say I have the best ripping. The best ripping, okay. People call me all the time on the phone and they say, Jay, you rip better than anybody I've ever seen rip. Okay. Tony! Tony! It wasn't a very good Trump impression, but I'm glad you knew what it was. I'm glad you knew what it was. Night House, since you're here and you wanted a room tour, I'm not going to give you a room tour, but there's a keyboard. I play the keyboard, but I'm learning to play the keyboard. It's a nice keyboard. And then the last thing that is something I collect, okay? My board game collection. Board games. There's stacks of them. Stacks and stacks of board games. Anyway, that's it. Yeah, I would have a board game night. There's actually some more board games up there in my closet. That wasn't all of them, but oh, and some bongs up there. W bongs. W bongs. Am I right, everybody? Look at this one. From Star Wars. Come on. Look, you know what I'm saying, right? You guys know what I'm saying, you know? Little Star Wars. That bong will send you to space. You're damn right. And then I've got this cute little shot glass pipe. You can take a shot, and then out of here you hit your weed. Good stuff. All right, guys. My freaking Zelda thing came back on. I am gonna get out of here and watch Big Brother with my grandma, because a new episode came out today, and we on that Big Brother. You know what I'm talking about? We on that Big Brother. Bro's getting the Galactic Confederacy rated with this one. You damn right. You guys are the goats. I appreciate y'all hanging out. No, thank you, Bug. I can't believe Daphne isn't here. She was here like the whole time until the end. Bye, boyfriend. Okay. Wait, first, Jazz, you have a friend on Big Brother? You said you have a friend on that show, so actually I want you to tell me about that real quick. Oh, Rubina? Yeah, you know Rubina? She's not going to be on Big Brother for much longer. Have you watched it? That's crazy. Have you watched it? But have you watched it? Okay, well, no spoilers, but she's not making a lot of friends right now. She's getting in a showmance with a guy named Tucker. And nobody likes Tucker right now. He's making a lot of enemies, but her and Tucker are falling in love, so... That's hilarious. But Tucker is winning like so many competitions, so she might just stay on a lot longer. She's trying to tuck Tucker's Tucker. Shut the fuck up. Okay. But they can't keep their hands off each other. But Tucker has this really hot girl named Leah who's into Tucker, and I thought Tucker was going to go after Leah, but no, Tucker was like, I like Rubina. So, anyway. All right, enough of that. That's crazy that you know her. That's crazy. So, okay, bye everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll go live earlier tomorrow now that I have the whole setup. I got my haircut and all that shit. Bye.